And to issues of spousal violence, Lagos State Police Command has paraded Benjamin Ogudoro, a man who denied the killing of his wife and her brother in Festac area of Lagos. And senior correspondent Ivy Kanu reports.
This is the residence of Benjamin Nkemakolam Ogudoro at number 5, Zone 5, Ote Garden Estate, Abule-Ado. It was here that a fire outbreak happened on the 1st of April 2022. Benjamin's wife, Chinyere, who is based in Scotland, and her brother, Ifeanyi Edoziem, died in the incident. Chinyere burnt to death, while her brother, who was rescued, later died in the hospital. This is the first time the police is parading Mr. Benjamin Ogudoro, the suspect believed to be responsible for the fire outbreak.
He claimed there was an argument and he set the wife ablaze.
Assuming my phone is here, I will open my listing. About 1 week before she came back, I even sent her 300,000 to pay for the accommodation.
50-year-old Benjamin says he had no reason for killing his wife and her brother.
That case is a case of fire incidents, okay? After I welcomed her very well, went to our room, okay, we stayed. After some time, she had a phone call and she said, baby, I said, yes. He said, please, this phone call, I need to take it where Ifeanyi is. It concerns us. I said, okay, no problem. So she headed to the guest room. I was in the parlor, okay, with my phone. I was chatting with my phone. So I suddenly saw a light from the balcony, okay? I saw that there was light, so the door was closed. I just opened the door. When I opened the door, the light, that's the fire, came. And I shouted, Ifeanyi.
According to him, the plan to sell their house was an agreement between him and his wife.
I did not make any effort to sell a property without her consent, okay? The time we wanted to sell that property was last year, okay? Our paper expired, and we needed to renew our 2 years visa for all the families.
But what was the relationship with late Ifeanyi Edoziem, his wife's younger brother, who also died from burns sustained from the fire?
He has stayed with me for more than 5 years, okay? So I've also been instrumental to his development, okay? He only left my house when he got married, okay?
Chinyere, who lives in Scotland, was picked up from the airport and taken to their residence by her younger brother, where they were consumed by the mystery fire. Meanwhile, the accountant, the police say, would have his day in court. Ivy Kano, TVC News, Lagos.
Founder and Executive Director Live Abundantly, Dr. Ama Onyerima, joins me now to discuss the dangers of domestic violence. Good to have you join us, Dr. Ama.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've been following the news after the very sad death of the gospel music artist. And we've seen several reports of women who have come out to say, oh, this is also my story. But this morning, just as I opened my social media apps, I saw a video of a man who was being abused, I think, by his girlfriend. She was literally pulling his hair. It was very difficult to watch. And then I wondered, and that's the question I'm asking right now, why do people stay in relationships like this?
Well, that is a very good question to ask, but there are many reasons. I want to start with the fact that sometimes people are in abusive relationships because their identity, the sense of identity, is tied into being married. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, being married is very important to women because they want to have that title of Mrs. We also have the cultural and religious beliefs that you're not a complete woman or complete being. Because you talked about a man, if you're not married and you don't have children. So people end up in relationships that are not right for them. On the other hand, sometimes families come together and select a bride or a spouse for another person without looking to see the character or if that is a good match. Now, on top of that, there are those who are predisposed to violence, either because the witnesses are children, So if you grow up in an abusive household, you're more likely to be abusive because you see that as normal. And you've also got the good books that in some cases permit physical abuse as the right of the husband over the wife. Now, we have to start to educate people and create greater awareness as to what it means to have domestic violence. What are the signs of domestic violence? Very often, the other partner is groomed into a submissive role where they lose their sense of being and cannot, for the sake of shame, come out and tell people what they're really experiencing. When you think of a man who is being beaten by his wife, the community, the society says that as a man, that should not occur. But yet it is occurring, and it does occur in many cases. And there is no place to go. There is no place to go and speak to people. People won't listen. It's worse for men than it is for women. But the greater number of domestic cases are against women being violated. And
I agree with you that it's worse for men. And it's not in terms of numbers, but in terms of men are expected to be strong. Men are expected to be, there is that idea of you have to show some level of strength and power as a man, authority. And so when a man is under that situation, it's very difficult to speak out because it looks like society wonders, how did you even get in that situation in the first place? But let's talk about the role, which has now come to limelight, the role that religious centers, religious leaders, and the family plays. Some people say, look, especially for the church, that part of the Bible that says for better, for worse, has been, and it's not really in the Bible, it's just a vow, that it is problematic, and perhaps there is really nothing like for worse, especially when your life is at risk. And then there are family members who say, especially for mothers who say, just stay, I had it worse with your father and I'm still alive. Those are problematic, those have been problematic for people who are in this kind of relationships. I just want you to speak to that.
Well, you're absolutely correct. There's lack of dialogue across generations, and it's important for there to be dialogue. When there's dialogue, then people begin to have conversations as to what is right and what is wrong. When there is dialogue, you begin to learn what your rights are, and you begin to set boundaries as to what you want within your relationships. Unfortunately, on many occasions where women are being violated, or even men, they have the cultural limitations that come in, the religious limitations that say, well, this is part of marriage and it's going to get better. When they bring the families in, the families are only looking, their stake in this is not to have a divorce or not to be seen as a bad woman or a bad person. But the reality is the level of abuse that that person is enduring affects the way that they behave, affects the way that they perceive themselves, and it ultimately will affect the family. So psychological counseling is important. The laws have to be held. People have to be prosecuted. People need to speak up about what they are experiencing, whether they're males or females. We do need to establish centers for men to go to so that they can speak about what they're experiencing. But even those that we have right now for women are limited in the scope of services that they can offer. But I think the education has to start at a very young age. When we start to train our children to understand that boys and girls are equal and that they should be treated respectfully, that kind of mindset is what will help to deal with the level of violence that is acceptable here.
And it's a conversation that we have to continue to have. We must continue to speak out and encourage people to speak out. And thank you for talking to us, Dr. Ama Onyerima, founder and executive director, Live Abundantly.
Thank you for having me.